I'm Andrew Allison. I'm the CEO of Cuvee Collective. Cuvee Collective makes wine NFTs with some of the best wine brands in wine country. Wine NFTs are events, experiences, and wine allocations all packaged together. Today, I get the opportunity to visit Gustavo Gonzalez and see what Mira Winery here in Yountville has to offer. Let's go check it out. Gustavo, how are you?
Hey Andrew, I'm great. How are you?
Well, thanks for making some time in the middle of harvest.
Absolutely my pleasure. Welcome to Mira Winery.
And what do you think we'll get into today?
Well, today's going to be a pretty typical winemaker day during harvest. We're going to start in the vineyards like we always do this time of the year, take advantage of the cooler weather in the morning. Today we have a typical marine layer effect, which we love to see. It means we're going to have a cool morning. Nice. We'll look at some grapes we still have on the vine, some Cabernet, and then from there we'll go into the cellar and have a look at some of the harvest activities we have going on there.
Well, I'm excited to hang out with you, so I don't really care about what we do, but let's go jump into it.
All right, I'm thrilled to show you. Let's step into this Cabernet and talk about the vintage.
Awesome. So Gustavo, are these trellises done, or are you still going to put more trellising on top?
This is pretty much it. So with this specific vineyard, we decided to go the old route, which is the head trained route.
Okay.
And just let these grow like trees a little bit. And the idea is that one, we're having hotter weather now, so this is kind of the old way that things were planted in California. The idea here is that the vines themselves provide their own shading. And so what's interesting for me besides that is also every vine is unique and every cluster is even more unique than maybe what we have with what's become more traditional, which is the cordon pruning. And in the end, when I bring that into the winery, I think it's going to make me produce a wine that's a little bit more complex just naturally, because not every cluster is exactly the same.
So how long ago did you plant these vines? I mean, they still seem like they're quite young relative to some of the other vines that I've seen.
Right, so these vines are pretty young. We planted them in 2018, and so we did a couple different things around the property. We have 10 acres of vines, 6 different varieties, and that allowed us to try different things in different spots. And so what we did here is we planted roots first to let the roots grow, and then we came back and we field grafted the varietal on top of the roots. And so, there's a couple different years going on. So we did the roots one year, we did the varietal a different year, and this will actually be the first year that we harvest fruit from this specific vineyard. All right, let's go to the cellar now, because the sun is starting to break and our cool marine layer is starting to go away. So now at this point in time, I would go to the cellar and just check in on the fermentations that are going on there. So we actually harvested our first grapes, red grapes, a week ago. And now we have some active fermentations going, as well as some wine still in the juice stage. So let's go check those out.
Awesome.
Yeah, so from the vineyard, I would come to the winery, would be the next step, usually mid to late morning, and then have a look at what's going on in the winery. So this is our winemaking area. We opened this just in 2019, so everything looks new and smells new, and that's something that we want to keep going because the cleaner it is, the more healthy the environment is for making the wine.
Yeah, it feels very fresh.
Yeah, so you see that we have a couple different things going on in terms of the tank. So we have one bank of tanks that's stainless steel and then another bank of tanks that's wood. And so the wood is really important for me, and actually having both materials to make the wine is a really important aspect for me in making the wines, because you get different things from different things.
And so what size is this wood tank? I mean, this tank looks absolutely massive.
So that's a 5-ton tank. So usually when we refer to tanks, of course, there's a gallon capacity, but we talk about the tanks in terms of how many tons they hold, because primarily this is a red wine fermentation area.
Okay.
And so when we ferment red grapes, we put all of the grapes into the tank.
Okay.
And the design and the shapes of the tanks is completely intentional. So the idea was, because we make single vineyard, single varietal wines, and also because I like to keep everything separate up until the time before bottling, we size the tank so that we can accommodate the different amounts of fruit from the various vineyards that we work with and keep it all contained within one tank.
Wow. And so these larger stainless steel tanks are how many tons then?
So these are 8-ton tanks. So basically the little tanks are 3s, the middle tanks are 5 tons, and then the big tanks are 8.
Okay. And
what's interesting about that is one of the conversations I had when I first met Bear was we were talking about the Fibonacci sequence, which he had no idea what it is, and which is something that's really difficult to describe. But just to know that these are numbers that just naturally exist and reoccur in nature.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, when we put the winery together, we were looking to put the tanks in a size that would fit the vineyards that we work with, and they ended up being Fibonacci numbers, 3, 5, and 8s.
Okay, well that's some great history. And so when you come here and you work on the different aspects of the making wine, what would be one of the first things you would look at in the morning on a harvest week?
Well, typically I would see if we harvested anything, I would be here observing basically the process of getting the grapes into the tank, right? And then from there, I would go to the tanks and just smell and maybe take a sample from the tanks and see what's going on there. And then using the senses to try to decide what I'm going to do next on that specific tank.
You actually sample from your tanks?
I do. Would you want to check it out? I'd love to show you.
Love to sample, yeah. Gustavo, thank you so very much. I really found today special. I enjoyed meeting you at the crack of dawn, walking through the vineyards, checking out your production facility in the middle of harvest. I think that's something I'm going to cherish. But what are you excited about with what Mira's working on today and in the years ahead?
I'm really excited about the future for our own fruit coming off of our own property. You know, we replanted everything when we bought the estate, and basically the vines are still babies, and I'm excited to see how all of that stuff is going to develop and the direction that we're going to take with the wines that we're going to make from the fruit that's produced on the property. You know, we've been pretty much single vineyard, single varietal up until now. And the way that the property has been laid out, it's to give us an opportunity to finally have our own estate red, you know, maybe a blend of those reds while still making a little bit of the single varietals. And now that we have our own winery as well, an opportunity maybe to work with other vineyards that I haven't worked with in the past to grow the portfolio in a much higher quality way in terms of some of these vineyards that we haven't worked with before.
I think something that would be incredibly special is if our community could spend some time with you. I think your career has been just something that many people in the industry would like absolutely love to hear about, where you've worked your way up through the Robert Mondavi lab all the way through running their Reds program. And now you're here, you've founded your own brand, you've built your own winery, and now you're, you know, essentially building out your flagship programs now as the brands are continuing to develop.
Yeah, I'm excited to share that with them, because I think one of the biggest things that I noticed with people that are into wine now or getting into wine is just the level of curiosity that people have beyond what's just in the glass, you know, understanding the process that went into making it, who were the people involved, what hands touched all this. And that's something that it's been very important for me throughout my career, and understanding, you know, my own work is understanding how other people do that in other places. And so it's exciting for me to share that with your collectors and really give them a detailed view of what it takes to make what's finally in your glass and what you're having, you know, that evening with a friend of yours or whoever it may be. There's a lot that went into it, and it's a very fascinating process to get to this.
And it's a very fine line between art and science, and I think your career speaks to both sides of it. You're very scientifically driven when it comes to the lab aspects of the business, but when it goes to your vineyard or other aspects, you're very art driven. And when those two come together, I mean, you get these beautiful wines that we tried today. So would love to have our community have the opportunity to check that out.
I'm excited to do so, and I look forward to it.
Gustavo, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated getting to spend my morning up until midday with you. Cheers.
Cheers.
And until the next time we get to hang out, thanks so much. I'll definitely cherish today. Today was super special for me. It was great to learn about Gustavo, his background, starting off at the lab at Robert Mondavi to going and running the Reds program at the Robert Mondavi Winery, to then going on to being a founder and building his own winery. But what I also found really special was the opportunity to learn from one of the best winemakers in Napa Valley, going and exploring the vineyards with him, seeing what Gustavo looks for, seeing how he works his vineyard. That was easily one of the coolest days that I've had in wine country. I'm just so excited to share this with the Cuvee Collective community. So jumping into the benefits after sitting down with Gustavo, we're going to offer Winemaker for a day. Follow Gustavo through his day, then you get the opportunity to go through your own winemaking process, get to taste their wines at the different stages, both in their barrel room and from their tanks. And then you also get the opportunity to go through a proper tasting and have a sit-down lunch on their property. So you're really getting the full experience. You're getting exposure to Gustavo in a very hands-on way to shadow him. And that's something that is just not offered. And I think that's why I'm so excited for what Cuvee Collective is able to bring together with this Winemaker for a Day with Mira and their NFT collection. To find out more about the Mira NFT, come to cuveecollective.com and check us out. Cheers.